All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Of course, the epic first stream since the midterm stream. It took a lot out of me because we did go for, fucking 5 hours. Even with a co-host, it's difficult. By the way, about 250,000 people on YouTube and over 60,000 more people on Rumble watching that. Great success. Not so successful with regards to the midterm results themselves, although I would like to post this for people. It's not me coping. I realize I was obviously far off when it comes to the House and Senate balance there. I did get 16 out of the 20 individual races that I called correct, however, including Walker v. Warnock going to runoff. That's not that bad. And all 3 of the main gubernatorial slots that I weighed in on. Let's make sure we're actually live on Rumble. I'm getting rusty at this. Oh, no. Oh, shit. Oh, I should probably mute myself, too. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Hello. Good morning, clankers. Yeah, all eyes on Raphael Warnock versus Herschel Walker, I suppose. But we've got other news that we've got to cover right now. I will be talking about that individual race fairly soon. I made my very first campaign contribution. I've never done that before in my life, including for Donald Trump, actually, to Herschel Walker's campaign, just to be clear. It looks like it's a 50-50 sum game there. I mean, if the third-party voters break for Walker, I think that it gets him over the margin. That's requisite, though, on everyone actually coming out to vote the second time. And keep in mind, they shortened up the voting period in that. I mean, the period up to the runoff vote. It used to be, I think it was 11 weeks before. Now it's 4 weeks. Actually, kind of makes sense when you think about it. We've got so much honking going on. So much crazy shit. By the way, to Visigoth, yes, the Rumble chat is working. It is on your end. I do see Rumble rants coming through. So, yeah, it is actually working. I'll probably keep it a little bit short today. And tomorrow there will be no stream. There will also be no morning videos. I will probably, if there's any major news whatsoever, I'll make videos still. But we have a scheduled appointment that's going to get me up early in the morning. I'm going to be running on caffeine fumes, and we'll be out until at least the mid-afternoon. So, yeah. Prime Night, how is it going for Carrie Lake? She has definitely evened the odds as of the, oddly enough, Maricopa County batch that came in the other day, or rather this morning. She's still at a disadvantage, but she still does have a chance, actually, to win there. Be really interesting if Maricopa votes carry her over the threshold. Jesus. Anyway, we'll get right into this. We got fairly major news here. You can go through this article yourself. Links in the description to all of these things. I'm going to read the list of names that are involved here. Mitch McConnell is not having a good time right now. Of course, Mitch McConnell helped to sabotage multiple midterm races and on behalf of the Democrats. Really, when they say, Moscow Mitch and shit like that, you should be praising him. The rhinos and the neolibs got together, and they got Mitch McConnell to spend millions of dollars on non-competitive races while ignoring Blake Masters, throwing Mastriano under the bus. Again, I will always say this when I talk about Mastriano. He was very unlikely to win anyway, but it was feasibly a competitive race. Masters and Laxalt definitely should have gotten more support. The GOP would have held the Senate. And the reason they didn't do that is because they don't want more MAGA in the Senate. Mitch McConnell knows that in such a case, he's likely to get tossed aside. But now you have a chorus of Republicans in the Senate saying that maybe Mitch McConnell should be going. I happen to agree with them. It's ditching Mitch is a good idea strategically. You also have some calls among Democrats to fuck around with senators. Only in their case, it happens to be Manchin and Sinema. They're rooting for Herschel Walker to lose so that they can get rid of the filibuster. Even though without getting rid of the filibuster, they don't have the votes to get rid of the filibuster. So keeping that in mind, they are setting themselves up in a little bit of a delusional scenario. After epic failure, growing chorus of senators signals it's time for McConnell to go. I'm just going to read the list of names. Number 1, Josh Hawley. Not a big surprise. He's got his own ambitions. Number 2, Little Marco. Yes, Marco Rubio, which is actually interesting because he sort of straddles the line between the uniparty neocon, sort of rhino core, the GOP sorts, and sort of the MAGA side. I guess he figures he has the legitimacy to be able to say this because he won re-election by such a massive margin. The Florida Republicans goddamn knocked it out of the park. They completely flatlined the Democratic Party in Florida. I guess little Marco, not so little anymore. Cynthia Loomis, who actually I had never heard of before. And I'm a political commentator, so that should show you how relevant this individual is. But, you know, joining the chorus. Mike Lee, yes, he did win against Evan McMuffin, which is hilarious. McMuffin briefly looked like he was potentially going to carry it away. Mike Lee did get reelected. Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, who has his own ambitions, just like Holly does, trust me. Ted Cruz, he's sort of in that same crowd of people. Lindsey Graham throwing Mitch McConnell under the bus. Yes, Lindsey Graham, who is also partially responsible for the midterm fiasco, also joining in on the hate on Mitch McConnell thing. It's a no-brainer if you want to keep your career at this point. Eric Schmidt, and of course, J.D. Vance, a MAGA Republican endorsed by Trump who is now in the Senate despite, again, like Laxalt and like Blake Masters, being sidelined by the freak show that is the Mitch McConnell GOPE. He's confirmed that he wants new leadership there as well. He points out, though, he throws Mitch McConnell a bone. I love this quote. If Mitch McConnell is the only person that runs, that makes it a very easy decision. Okay, we'll see what happens when I get to Washington. He's not expecting that Mitch McConnell will not face some opposition. Now, will McConnell actually go? It's not as likely. You've got to understand he still does control a disproportionate amount of the money that the Republicans have in the Senate level. But it is possible. Mitch McConnell could actually get knocked out as the Senate leader for the Republicans. And I think it should happen. Tristan, if Hobbs did pull off a win, I'm sure all the votes would have been counted by now. There has to be a reason why they're dragging their feet. Now, in this case, it's actually not honking. Now, of course, Maricopa's drop favored Kari Lake, actually, which is unexpected. In this case, it is sheerest goddamn inefficiency. Total and utter complete fucking incompetence by the Arizona state. I would point out that they also had a ballot measure, I think it was ballot measure number 3, that would have required universal mail-in, it would have required a universal voter ID and ended the expanded mail-in voting that is literally causing the problem. Oh yeah, the measure just happened to be defeated by about a half a point. That one might be more on the honky side. Patchy, if the Dems keep control and things get worse, how will the leftists cope to vote blue again? Are they that deluded to do that anyway? Some of them are. There are always partisans, Democrats and Republicans. By the way, there were Republicans that voted for John McCain, just to be clear, and Mitt Romney. Should have voted Ron Paul, my dudes. I think things will get worse, and the Democrats will continue to get hammered by this. It's going to be a big goddamn problem, especially in 24 because of the Senate map. They are going to be defending a shit ton of goddamn Senate seats in 24. It's going to be real goddamn difficult, even with the neocon unipartyists working with them, which they presumably will after what we just saw, to try to maintain control. Gerald Armstrong, I'm not pro-abortion because I think abortion is disgusting. But don't you think the Democrats are aborting their future voting base by bringing abortion to the forefront? Kind of. They're overstretching, and I suspect that now that they have at least control of the Senate narrowly, they will continue to push that issue. And they're going to alienate independent voters. Fire down below. Are you still confident that states are defortified, therefore leveling the election playing field? Me more black-pilled after this past election. Yes, I was fundamentally correct. Most of those states did defortify. In the case of Florida, they went in the opposite direction. Look at the wonders that happened there. Every Republican state should follow suit, by the way. That being said, if you have a uniparty leadership with the purse strings, with all of the money, and they refuse to disburse proper amounts of cash to competitive races, screwing multiple House and Senate members, doesn't matter if you fortify things. This is the old norm. And the parties have done this for decades and decades anyway. Normally, they fortify the primaries. They get the candidates in that they want. They then starve any candidates that they don't want to win during the general election. There's no need for anything related to ballot printers going burr. It's not necessary. Now, they weren't used to it in 2016, which is why they lost. 2018, they still were playing catch up. As we saw in more recent elections that shall not be named in totally different countries, by the way, it can still be a problem. Highleaf11, can you give a shout out to the Porch Boys? They're a small channel, but I want to help them grow. There you go. Check out the Porch Boys. I don't know if they do music or what they're doing, but it's a shout out anyway. Fubar 2020. Fetterman will probably be president one day. That would be hilarious. We will be talking about the insinuation that that's a possibility. Wolf Better, the left in Italy has been trying to push mail-in ballots and electronic vote for years. Geez, I wonder why. Yeah, it's very lucrative if you happen to be the one that does the counting. Hunter Wadley, I'm still going to be optimistic here in Florida. How hard are they going to eat the Inflation Reduction Act if Dems also win the House? Yeah, they'll be pushing that shit. Sebastian Monroe, given that Adam Krigler starts his streams at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, it would be best to wait until you're back on this side, unless you want to get up early. LMAO. Drive-by commenter. Perhaps people could check out Project Virginia's account for tips on local efforts to mirror Virginia 2021 in their own states. Ismanai with the perpetual Happy Clank post. James Willis, at least China doesn't fake elections. I can't actually read out the last few words on that one. I'm really sad about that. And it should give you an indicator of the direction things are going. Not a banned account. Now that Trump is done, DeSantis Cruz 2024. I do not know that Trump is done. We're going to have to wait and see what his announcement is tomorrow. That will presumably be a video, by the way, although I'll probably dump it late in the goddamn evening my time. Doc Holliday. Lindsey Graham, the hot dog eating champion of Washington, D.C. And Chuck Schumer, allegedly. James Dugan Ashley was right. Not a banned account. Will Biden bravely run for president again in 2024? The problem for the Democrats is that if Biden gets any credit for this, and some outlets are giving him credit for the midterm success, lukewarm as though it was for the Dems in the Senate, he may actually be emboldened to be crazy enough to run again. Oh boy, I hope he does. I hope he runs. Number one, so he faces probably a primary, because many Democrats aren't on board with the idea. Number two, so that it'll be a shit show. Mr. Wonderful. Give Trump the gavel. I'm not interested in the whys and why nots, only the resulting mountains of salt. That won't happen, just to be clear. Drive-by commenter meant to say the Twitter account for Project Virginia. Orchid Finance, would you still support DeSantis if he is the 2024 candidate and he gains the support of the neocon wing of the GOPE? I would probably support him unless I think there's shenanigans involved for why he got in there. If Trump runs and it looks like there's screwball shit going on at the uniparty level, I won't support the Republican candidate unless it's like Rand Paul. DeSantis, I'm more iffy about. I would prefer Kerry Lake over Ron DeSantis. I put DeSantis in number 4. Trump is the technical incumbent. He's number 1. Rand Paul, who I've always liked, he'd be number 2. Kerry Lake, whether she wins or not, by the way, I think would be a close number 3. Kyle Miller. Do you think Trump is going to announce that he will run on Tuesday? I think establishment GOP will try to lose 2024 if he does. I agree that they will make an attempt. Mail-in ballots benefit Democrats and Republicans need to up their game. Yeah, they should be encouraging people to vote by mail, I guess. Either that or they should do more outreach to the dead voting bloc. Not a banned account. How Biden has more successful campaigns than Obama. Yeah, I mean, it's quacking crazy how Biden's Democrats during an edgy recession managed to outperform Obama's midterm Democrats. Ain't that quacking crazy? They even outperformed goddamn Bill Clinton. Wow, it's so surprising to me. Next news story. Collapsed cryptocurrency exchange FTX had ties to the Ukrainian government, WEF, and the top Biden advisor. This is from The Blaze, so there's always going to be some hyperbole there whenever there are Democrats involved. That being said, I did not even talk about this the other day, despite the news breaking then, because I looked at this and I said, this is too hot a news story. This is a double doozy. This is a major scandal of epic proportions. It's beyond a double doozy. Maybe it's a fucking triple doozy, or at least 2.5 doozies or something like that. But I couldn't get confirmation of some of the details, and so I sat back and waited an extra day out of an abundance of caution. It turns out it's true. FTX, crypto exchange, it's basically gone now. Somebody decided to leave the door open on their way out, and then a bunch of money got embezzled. And last, I think the chairman of the group, whose name escapes me at the moment, I think it was Bankman Fried or something like that. He apparently fled to South America or something. It's really it's a story of epic white collar corruption here. The problem is that this dude is one of the main Democratic Party donors. You're not seeing that mentioned, by the way, if you see an article about this crypto exchange at all on CNN or MSNBC for a reason. It was covered up until right at the end of the midterms for a reason. Yeah, they had financial problems anyway. They were over-declaring their actual value and fleecing investors, but you didn't hear anything about that until the ballots were already in. I wonder why that happened. He donated more money, singularly as an individual, to Democratic candidates than anyone else other than George Soros for the midterm elections, and was actively planning to influence the 2024 election by pledging to spend at least tens of millions of dollars, and that if Trump ran, he would have a soft ceiling, his own words, of $100 million. So it'd be a little bit like Michael Bloomberg's massive buy-in to the 2020 election with regards to the race in Florida. Not the greatest investment that Michael Bloomberg ever made, by the way. Hi, Leaf11. The Porch Boys do a stream every Tuesday and do a meme stream with a little news and political talk. Oh, okay. From the name, I thought it was like a band or something. Testing 2741. When will they honk the 24 presidential, the in 9 still fortified states? I hope you and mainstream pundits wake up. TGP is right. More and more proof. Yes, keep in mind, though, that I have to do exclusive videos to discuss some of the finer aspects of what you're discussing. Opium Gardener, if you watch Fuentes, you'd understand DeSantis is nothing but an infiltrator. The DeSantis is absolutely screwy, and I wouldn't trust him at all. Well, I mean, Nick Fuentes, he called me the goth Sean Hannity, so you'll excuse me if I may be more skeptical about his particular political and social finesse on certain issues. That being said, definitely, when I look at DeSantis, I'm not completely sold on him. If Fuentes would be correct on that. I need more time to see what he does over the next couple of years. He may very well not even run. I mean, if Trump runs, that clears the field. A lot of people do not want to go up against him. You might get a Liz Cheney run. Mike Pompeo might decide to be a punching bag for a while. Half the states will suspend their primaries. Not a bad account. Obama should learn from President Biden's charisma. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are people who actually believe that. It's the funniest thing I've seen in a while. The Copper Owl, how can I have the power of predicting the future? Also tell Stolas to leave me alone. It's not funny anymore. Hunter Wadley, I agree with your earlier video. I was sold the change lie too as a young voter in 2008. Many such cases. Hopium Gardner, sorry, meant to say DeSantis cabinet. Haven't looked at his cabinet. A lot of times someone who's MAGA or even just like outside of the mainstream will get some neocons in just because they want them there as insurance, basically, or for money purposes. You look at the libertarian ticket in 2016 with Bill Weld joining aboard, who claimed that he would never vote Republican again and then subsequently mounted a 2020 bid, just to be clear. He brought millions of dollars to the Johnson ticket. I wonder where all that money went, by the way. So yeah, the FTX thing is blowing up in the faces of the Democrats, but the legacy media is not talking about it. Also, the Ukrainians invested directly in the company because they wanted crypto donations. Yeah, there's no conflict of interest here. The Biden administration gets you involved in a proxy conflict. The donations are going through the same site that's donating to Joe Biden and other Democratic candidates. That's perfectly normal and not at all banana republicish. Next, we've got something funny here. Here, just a second. Let me get the tab. Okay. Andrew Wortman weighing in. He's a liberal commentator. He fired 3/4 of the employees. Now he's planning to starve the rest of them. He's failure incarnate. People weighing in on Elon Musk and the Twitter luncheon lulls that are going on right now. And the idea is that the employees at Twitter for many years have enjoyed free food at their food court. They don't have to pay for it. They work there. I guess they scan their badge or some shit like that. And then they get their avocado toast and their fair trade latte and their arugula salad with the sprinkling of pomegranate and all of these other things. Now they're not going to be able to do that anymore. And Musk pointed out, hey, a lot of people weren't taking advantage of it. And the cost is onerous. There are more people preparing food than eating the food. What's the fucking goddamn point? Pay for your fucking food. At the very least, you can probably break even. And apparently the former cost for a plate of food, this is Musk claiming this, I don't know if this is true, was $200 for a meal. What the fuck kind of food perks are they getting at Twitter HQ that they're paying that much for a fucking meal? Okay, so filet mignon, lobster cakes, and all of these. I'm sure that those are on the menu. Where the fuck are you getting the coffee from? Like, that's even beyond Starbucks levels of grift and price inflation. $200 fucking dollars. I know San Francisco's area tends to be kind of pricey, but I mean, couldn't you have it a little bit? Couldn't you get catering by Sodexo? If it's good enough for college kids, it should be good enough for you, right? That's a lot of money for lunch, just to be clear. I mean, again, what are they eating? Or are you talking about, like, are they gigantic plates? Okay, so it's piled high with really nice steaks or something like that. Okay, I can understand why it costs $200. Who's eating all of that? These are employees in San Francisco at a far left company. They're eating arugula and pomegranates and shit. They're eating kale smoothies. It does not cost $50 to make a kale smoothie. Apparently at Twitter it used to, though. I wonder why the company was insolvent long before Elon Musk decided to buy it. Doc Holliday, Biden Fetterman 24. It's a no-brainer. I like the double entendre there. Michael Cricklow, Trump put the battery in DeSantis back. Yes, the other thing that people need to understand is that Donald Trump is the reason why Ron DeSantis won the first time around. Ron DeSantis was slightly behind against a person who's now in federal custody for various counts of fraud and embezzlement. Not to mention the time that, not long after he lost the election, I can't remember the name of the dude, he was found in a hotel room. He was passed out on drugs with a bunch of hookers around and shit. Yeah, Florida almost voted for the douchebag. Trump came and literally saved Florida. He gets no kudos for this, I guess. Skycloud Rain, Fetterman was put in to make Biden look cognitive. Yeah, I mean, I can actually believe that. That's the funny thing is that things are so screwy right now. I'm amenable to that actually being a true story. By the way, it's funny right now. There are 2,000 fucking people watching on Rumble. That's getting up towards the YouTube number at this point. I guess people like the midterm stream. Hello to everyone on Rumble. In fact, there's a couple of Rumble chats. Clawsome, who would your dream replacement for Mitch be? Rand Paul. Get him in there as the Senate leader. Guarantee things will improve. Garrick Mobius, derp, there. I made you say it. I'd say derp on my own. You don't have to pay me for that. Now, for some reason, the next link is not working. I don't know exactly how I accomplished that. I must have put it in wrong somehow. But I was going to talk about Donald Trump being blamed for the midterms. This is a recap because I've talked about it several times since the midterm election days ago. Here's my thoughts. There are three people most centrally responsible for what happened in the midterms. Mitch McConnell for misappropriating money and obsessing over Murkowski v. Shabaka. Again, I'm not sure that we still have final results for that. I think it goes to another round of runoff. I'm not 100% sure. Ignoring Laxalt, he could have easily had that Senate seat taken. Ignoring Herschel Walker for the most part, they easily could have avoided a runoff. We're talking about less than a goddamn point. Easily could have propped up Blake Masters just with the money that you frittered away in Alaska. You'd have 53 Senate seats, which would be in line with the expectations. You could have defended easily. You could have defended Mehmet Oz in Pennsylvania, by the way, too, at the same time in the House. House races are cheaper than Senate races. They get lower profile. You could have easily defended an extra dozen House races that have been either picked up or are still in count right now. You would have taken the House by 20 or so. It wouldn't have been a red tsunami, but you would have taken it more handily than you're going to take it now. You would have taken the Senate. You could have blocked the Dems. The reason McConnell didn't do this is because he would rather be the minority leader than have a Senate majority that kicks him out. He's still at risk for it now, though. It might go down as one of the biggest blunders of modern political history, especially for the GOP. And there are plenty of blunders that the GOP has blundered into, let's face it. Number two, Lindsey Graham, for pushing abortion as an issue. The left got more fired up after that. I don't think that had an enormous role, but it definitely played a role. The economy was the big thing for most people in the election, but there were certain people who probably would have just fucking stayed home because of the bad economy if you hadn't fucking ranted about wanting a national abortion ban. And number three, of course, Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the House Republicans. He's not even as good strategically as Mitch McConnell is. These people need to go. Nonetheless, the story of the day is Trump is down for the count. Trump is weak. Trump caused this to happen. Yeah, Trump giving millions of dollars to Blake Masters while he got ignored by Mitch McConnell. That totally is the reason why the Republicans lost the Senate. Of course. Brian Shin, 999, no comment, thank you. Miku Huntu, 4X spot. People who say DeSantis doesn't owe Trump for 24, though. Now, DeSantis owes him for in the past when he won in the first place. He doesn't owe Trump anything particularly now, but he hasn't shown any signs towards wanting to run. I like the other day, they were like, well, there's a super PAC set up for DeSantis 24. Candidates don't form super PACs. They're explicitly not allowed to talk to them. Candidates and super PACs are mutually exclusive unless you happen to be Woodward, of course, and you were working with the Clinton campaign. Skycloud Rain, DeSantis isn't that great. He was compared to tyrants. A hot dog compared to a turd is better, of course, but it's not gourmet. Trump MAGA is gourmet. See, I would be willing to settle for DeSantis if there are no shenanigans. I would be comfortable with casting a vote for him if I don't feel like the Uniparty is purposely trying to force him down my throat. If the Uniparty does attempt to force him in there are a lot of people who are going to be much more skeptical about supporting him. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, how badly do you think the midterm results affect Trump's chances in 24? Not at all at this point, to be clear. More at a point, how much do you think this will hinder him from getting anything done if he wins a second term? The man would only have 4 years after all. That one would hurt more because you've got a delay in the entry of MAGA Republicans into the House and Senate, which is why the party leadership needs to be purged. Brock Sampson, 71. DeSantis did good in Florida, but he's a Zionist and liked by neocons, so that should tell you everything you need to know. He's part of the swamp. Well, I mean, you just described basically all Republicans, including virtually all MAGA Republicans. I don't think, other than maybe being liked by neocons, like maybe a Boebert or something like that. We'll talk about that race that's still up in the air. Maybe a Kerry Lake. Most of them try to play nice with certain lobbying groups because they know otherwise they face a massive uphill battle. It's as simple as that. Huns with guns. People like to compare Kemp to Walker to say how bad MAGA candidates are, while conveniently forgetting the lieutenant governor was a MAGA candidate and won 51%. Exactly. Wow. Disappointed but not surprised by the midterm results. Do you think the rhinos and neocons would give up their power that easily? Yeah, they would rather have liberals in those positions than MAGA Republicans. Kyle Miller, think people will still vote blue if there is a recession in 23? Less likely, and it's likely to be called. It's looming. Reality Paranormal. I was upset after this midterm. After looking into the results, I believe that MAGA folks did well, even with all against them. Many Senate and House seats not up for election. There is hope in 24. True, there's always hope. Mr. Wonderful, the whole Trump-DeSantis thing is proof in real time how easily the average human can be manipulated. Ron is cool, but only Don can rule. Miku Huntu 4X spot. The latter with Crowder Crew said Trump didn't give enough money despite him being king of getting more with less. Don't walk, run. Also turned on T. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, how much money is Donald Trump single-handedly supposed to dump into the races because the Senate Republicans won't get their ass in order? It's not his, he's not in office. It's not his responsibility. Not a banned account. If World War III happens, do we still need to pay mortgages? Yes, so trust me, the IRS will still have backups of how much everyone owes on everything. Next news story, a funny one, I'll keep it short. MSNBC's Katie Tur suggests Fetterman could run for president. Makes you wonder about his future. Tur suggested that Fetterman gaining more support in Pennsylvania's deep red areas makes him a potential candidate for president. Look, we've just seen a person elected in 2020, Biden, who has cognitive issues. Joe Biden's cognitive issues at the time of the election are considerably less than Fetterman's. Now, he's catching up now because he's got Alzheimer's disease. But let's face it, candidate Joe Biden did not say as many off-the-wall fucking crazy things as John Fetterman does right now. John Fetterman is not going to be elected to the presidency. I hate to tell you, but there is an aspect of politics that would probably keep somebody like me out of the presidency. It's called the way you look. Now, I'm not willing to shave my head and put on the monkey suit and go through the goddamn ropes in order to appear presidential. So that basically disqualifies me unless there's some major cultural sea change and a new hippie movement or goth for president or something like that. John Fetterman is deformed, and he didn't have to have a stroke to be deformed. The man is built like a brick shithouse, has some sort of neck problem, I'm not sure what it is, has the perpetual fucking bulldog face. I hate to tell you this, but looks do actually matter in presidential politics. The only main advantage he'd have is he's relatively tall. I don't know if he's taller than Trump, actually. Yeah, he looks like the deformed dude from fucking, what is it, from the Goonies. Damon Kelly, when do I stop paying taxes? When you die. Hopium Gardner, Florida is basically, I don't know if I can use that term, central. Cernovich, Pushaw, David Raboy, Benny Johnson, all of these people are sketchy, and they're all connected to Ron. Yeah, so there are people attempting to to get the ID. John Fetterman 2024. What a way to undercut Joe Biden, by the way. Incoming senator, serves 2 years, and despite literally having brain damage, manages to primary out the other brain damaged dude who's already got the incumbency. Wouldn't that be fucking funny? I mean, I hope it happens. I hope that Fetterman does have presidential ambitions. It'd be the ultimate story of hilarity to me, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Next news story. U.S. judge suspends many of New York's new gun restrictions. Yes, the federal court's shooting down, wink, wink, more of the restrictions there temporarily. This is to put them on hold and say, look, the court can't find them constitutional. You're not allowed to do this pending higher court decision. I think it's going to be going to the Supreme Court at some point, actually. Under Bruin, which has already been decided at the SCOTUS level, gun control can only legally prevail if challenged, if you can get a court to take the case. There's the rub. Talked about that for a number of fucking years, by the way. If they take the case, they will be deciding whether there is a historical precedent for the gun control. Is there some justification for it that people early in the country's history would have accepted? Is there some tradition behind it? I hate to tell you this, but there is none for literally any form of gun control in the United States. By the way, inserting that, I believe that was Clarence Thomas specifically. Really, really great win. Thank you very much for that. Here's the problem. There was no gun control in the United States prior to the Cruikshank decision. It did not exist. There was an overlooking of constitutional rights in general in the urban East. And of course, in the territorial regions, the way the Constitution operates is differently. So there were old Western towns prior to Cruikshank, where, for instance, you had to check your gun at the door to go into the local saloon. And the sheriff would take it, put a little tag on it and stuff. But that's in the territories. Doesn't count. It's not a fully incepted U.S. state. What do we know about the non-incepted territories? 10th Amendment doesn't apply because there is no actual state government, just a peripheral territorial government. Prior to that, in the 1870s. So for almost 100 fucking years, there was effectively no gun control in the United States. The case is doomed. New York will lose. Just to be clear. Let's see here. Damon Kelly, Biden Fetterman 2024. It's a no-brainer, man. Yeah, we heard that joke already. I have a feeling we're going to hear it a lot more often over the next few years. Shark dentures, wrong, Sticks. Even death doesn't free you from taxes. Well, yeah, they do tax you, your estate once you're a corpse. Victoria Winter, can you please shout out Black Pigeon Speaks? He is trying to raise money for a documentary about the coming winter of discontent. Yes, I shared that out on Twitter a few days ago. Felix Rex on Twitter, by the way. You can give him a follow there. I think he's very close to his threshold, too. Dr. Certifiable, you have an open invitation, but what will get you to go on Timcast? I'll have to be in the United States. At that point, I will definitely go on his show. Tree Burb, hey Sticks, first time I've ever sent a super chat. What's your point of view on talking to receptive lefties about libertarian principles and policy without them going to corporations or bootstraps? Let them know that libertarians have not been in power and yet corporate control is already rife. The uniparty is what assures their monopolies and duopolies, not the idea of a free market. Not a bad account. Is Trump Lake 2024 still possible or probable? Maybe not probable, but it is a possibility. The eligibility is there. Relatively popular figure, very well spoken, by the way, would run rings around fucking Kamala or something. Can you imagine that? And then the Republicans could say, well, Trump might croak because he's old. We'll have the first female president. Wow, that would be wonderful. Jim Morrison, in California, many House races are stalled with often under 60% of the vote counted, giving Arizona a run for their paper money. No wave here. Mopey Hornet, hey Sticks, what do you think of Milo-based takes when it comes to Trump v. DeSantis on Timcast last week? By the way, it should give him an interview. As someone who is not a huge fan of Milo because he's gone down the Roosh route of beating the religion drum, which is a form of grift, by the way, I didn't hear his political commentary, so I can't judge it. Blazin13RI. Maybe we should start encouraging people to donate the candidates directly instead of to the GOP. Yeah, that's another good thing to do. I mean, if you're giving under the maximum limit, it's like $2,000, I think, per person per candidate or something like that. Yeah, you should give it directly. Mr. Wonderful, Democrats usually have dead people voting for them, but Pennsylvania Democrats have upped the game and elected an actual dead person. Wow. Yes, there was a dead candidate that was standing for office and still got reelected. Clearly, they can't actually hold the office. I'm not exactly sure what Pennsylvania does next. Next, we've got Boebert, of course, running in Colorado 3 against Adam Frisch. There are 1,100 votes at last count separating Boebert from her opponent. In a race that really, I mean, again, if she hadn't been tossed under the bus by the GOP, she'd be 5 or 6 points ahead. She'd be winning this easily. I think she probably wins. Actually, the race was tighter a few days ago, and she has expanded her lead. The problem is it's probably going to an automatic recount. In that automatic recount, anything can or will happen, of course. So, fucking Kamala. Lakewood runs circles around me. JD 1989 Sticks, what is the likelihood of the GOP taking the House? Pretty good. They do have a lead. It's only going to be by a few seats, so it's pretty mediocre. Wolf on the Plains. Thanks, Sticks. One tweet response from you about the FTX UK Dem scandal and my Twitter blew up. Most engagement I've ever had. Thanks, Clankers. Enjoy. Nick Palladino. What would be the best way to push for the removal of mail-in ballots outside a few reasons it needs to be dropped? Make a Fed holiday and go Stam. Yeah, I think that the election day should be a federal holiday. That would take pressure off the need for any mail-in ballots. You can't do it at the federal level. It literally has to be at the state level. And it should be dropped because, as we see, it's inefficient. It takes weeks instead of just hours to count all the votes. It doesn't make any sense at all. Miguel Barrera. Remember what you said about the Dems blaming the Republicans for the coming recession. Do you think with nothing changing post-midterm, the blame will fall on them Democrats for the upcoming recession? That is a hazard that they now run. They'll try to blame GOP obstruction, but as we've seen historically, trying to blame the out party for the problems of the economy doesn't really work well. Silky Johnson, I read an article from NBC how with the Dem Senate, Biden should remake the courts. Would they try it, or is it too risky even for them? Come on, man. They don't have the votes. There's a filibuster in the Senate, and it's not going anywhere. The Landlord Harassment Channel. What does the next 2 years look like now? Same as before. A recession is coming. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be more than a dark winter. Try a dark year, or so a year without a summer, or something like that, I suppose is more appropriate as a moniker for it. And the Democrats now can't just blame the GOP for it. So there's your silver lining, Republicans. Aliza770 on Rumble. Best analysis on midterms, your posts, MAGA for nothing, and masochistic Americans. Yeah, I enjoyed making those videos. And Matt G. Hammond. Carrie Lake needs to fix Arizona before seeking federal office. We need to defortify states. Well, I don't know if she would have the congressional votes within Arizona to do that. I think they tried a ballot measure and it narrowly was defeated. Try it again. By the way, no more super chats, please. I will be keeping it short today because tomorrow, again, I will not be live streaming or doing the morning videos, but I will be reacting to Trump's big announcement, presumably at some point in the evening. Tomorrow is going to be a hectic day because we have a scheduled appointment. Fire down below. Is it accurate to say all MAGA candidates that lost days after Election Day from mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting were honked? No, not all of them. Some of them took place in defortified states and are simply very close. What caused that to happen was the GOP's own internal dysfunction. Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, I've already explained that. Brian Smart, lame duck or not? Well, if the Republicans take the House, pretty close to lame duck status. Sparky, doubtful since no red wave, but Trump as speaker, even without impeaching and convicting Brandon, would at least screw McCarthy and be quite entertaining. But it's not going to happen. Fictitious Dave Savage, best way to combat the leader, Mortal Kombat. Fun game at the time. Talk about a button masher. I used to play that shit, and I would just mash all the buttons and inevitably win against the computer opponent because things were moving too fast for the computer to keep up. Yeah, so Boebert has a lead in Colorado 3, and it is actually growing in the late results. There's like one more batch to come in. It's less than 1% of the vote. It probably favors her, but it probably does not favor her enough quite to get her beyond recount status, which I believe in that particular state is 0.5. That's what you need to be above. Otherwise, there's an automatic recount. We'll see what happens. Colorado's not really a fortified state, though, so yeah, you should be optimistic. And then we have, of course, I already talked about this a couple of days ago, the epic ultimate midterm grift of the Joe Biden administration, breaking federal judge. This is days ago now. I was going to do a live stream on Friday for it, but I didn't have the energy. Breaking federal judge rules Biden's plan to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student loan debt is unconstitutional and must be vacated. The problem being, of course, now you have to get SCOTUS to take up the case in order to greenlight it. Joe Biden bought millions of votes from Zoomers, and that's really what I wanted to focus on in this last little bit here. I feel sorry for young voters. You got snookered the same way that millennials got snookered by Obama when he said he wanted to end the wars and stabilize the economy, and then subsequently kept the wars going, including multiple troop surges, kept Gitmo open, didn't take the floor on any meaningful issue, and then threw hundreds of billions of dollars at fucking corporations and banks while letting people fucking dwindle away in their savings. We got snookered. We voted for a person who at least sounded competent and sane, was a relative outsider, unlike Joe Biden, of course, and it didn't happen. You got conned by the acolyte of Barack Obama. Obama fooled the millennials, and now Biden has fooled Generation Z. My only bitch about Gen Z politically so far is their reluctance to start an anti-war movement. I am not going to sit there and blame young voters for getting snookered by this because it sounded so good on paper now, didn't it? I warned when it was first put through as an executive order. Pelosi has already said he doesn't have the authority to do it without legislation, so that kind of rains on your fucking parade. And it was carefully timed so that this court decision that was inevitable would happen just after the midterms. 48 hours later comes the decision. What coincidental timing? Joe Biden fundamentally bought the Democratic Party several million votes. Brilliant strategy. His timing couldn't have been better. Of course, the court could have rushed the docket and found it unconstitutional a week before the midterms. He did time it very carefully. You've almost got to fucking admire the dude for being able to con so many voters. The fact is, though, and this is, of course, why I didn't sign up for the student loan debt forgiveness, that and standing on principle, because I don't want to help wreck the economy any more than I have to. The other reason is because I didn't see it probably even happening. There's no fucking goddamn point to signing. I'm not even going to waste my time putting in my goddamn name if I know there's a 99% chance it never goes through. The Republicans are going to have too much power in the Senate for it to go through. They're going to probably harp on it before 24 and say, well, we would have passed it if not for those evil Republicans and the activist Trump judge stopped us. Oh, yeah, that's going to go over really well. Yeah, I'm sure that'll work with a minority of young voters. And the last super chat, Sparky. At least Obama didn't let bankers starve. Evil bankers are people too. Yeah, they got golden parachutes, even when their companies still collapsed after the bailout. I found that very, very funny. How many fucking people are watching? Jesus Christ, we've got 2,500 people watching in Rumble. It has shifted. It used to be that for every viewer on Rumble, there were 2 on YouTube. So it was like a 2-to-1. Now it's definitely it's more like a 2-3 sort of thing. I guess I've gotten bigger on Rumble as a platform. By the way, I looked right now. Rip Rumble is actually trending on Twitter. Has nothing to do with the site. It has to do with UFC. I guess Anthony Rumble Johnson dead at 38. Did he get the jab? I'm asking that rhetorically, by the way. Not a 38-year-old suddenly dropping dead of cardiac arrest lately. Very interesting. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to go off now. And again, keeping it a little bit short today. I will be going back to streaming, but tomorrow, no stream. I'm not going to have the energy. If Trump announces, I'm tempted to do like a special half-hour stream, but I have a feeling it'll be too late in the day and my child will be asleep. Trust me, when you're a parent, the child remaining asleep is much more important than virtually any news coverage that you can think of. It's of absolutely transcendent importance, especially when you're an insomniac like me. That's about all. Peace out.